Hello, everybody. Welcome to Scott's Comics Retro Review. I realize that that's a mouthful, but you could shorten it to SCRR or SCRR. Anyway, this channel is dedicated to those who want to get into comic books, but they're not sure where to start, or they're already in comics and they haven't read what I'm possibly reviewing. So if you stumble across this video, go ahead and pass this on to somebody in that category, okay? I would much appreciate it out to you. Anyway, what I wanted to do is I wanted to continue with John Byrne's Superman. Now, it's not really fair at this point to say it's just John Byrne's Superman because there's more creators involved than just John Byrne, okay? But John Byrne is the reason that I started buying the book to begin with. And I kind of wanted to go into that a little bit. Superman is my number 4 favorite superhero. And he's number 4 not only because of who he is, but because of his place in history. And in fact, it is his place in history that kind of helps rank him above some of the others that are below him. And my previous video, when I was doing the review on him, I kind of ended it with Superman number 1. And I wanted to give you an idea of how significant it was. First of all, the history of Superman is the history of comics because he was the first superhero. This is, by the way, not real Action Comics number 1. This is a replication of it. But what they did was, back then, everything was an anthology. So you would have several stories within the book, okay? And Action Comics number 1 was the first appearance of Superman. So I'm just giving you an idea that they have different stories and different characters in it. And Superman led the book off. He was on the cover, and he was the first storyline in the book. And it was so popular that what happened at that point is Superman got his own book, Superman number 1. Now, understand, like nowadays, when you go into the comic book store and you pick up a book, pretty much everyone has their own book. It's not anthologies anymore. But back then, for a dime, you would get 64 pages. And what they did with Superman is they had several stories in here that were just Superman. And this was the first time that this happened. Oops, I'm sorry. I thought this printed more than that. I apologize. I should have grabbed Superman number 2. Anyway, what they did was they gave him like several different stories in it. It was still an anthology, but it was all about a Superman anthology. And that was unheard of back then. Okay, and then after that, everybody kind of copies. Now, you look at Superman and you look at Batman, and they're like opposites, right? And you may say to me, Scott, how do you figure that Batman copies Superman? Well, what happened, the reason that Batman was created was because the editors told Bob Kane, the editors of Superman Comics told Bob Kane to go in and make another Superman. So he went home and not wanting to copy Superman, he created an opposite Batman. Of course, he called him Bill Finger. That's a whole nother story. But that's how Batman got created, was because they wanted another Superman. And pretty much every superhero after relates back to Superman in one form or another. Probably only 6 degrees of separation. I never actually played that game, but that's where they all come from. So if you happen to love superhero comics, it's because of Superman. And what happened was superheroes exploded at that point. They were all over the place. And a lot of where they were being sold was, we had there's an expression in the military called hurry up and wait. And that's what would happen with soldiers a lot of time. They would get ready and then they'd be sitting around waiting a lot. Well, while they were waiting, they would read comics because they had the PX, which is like a convenience store over in the military bases. And they would just buy comic books because they're sitting around waiting. They didn't want anything heavy to read, so they just get in there and they enjoy it. After World War II ended, superhero comics went on the decline. And that's what's considered the end of the golden age, is when the superhero comics went on decline. They all started canceling out. And you had 3 superheroes that continued from the golden age into what's known as the silver age, and Superman is one of those 3. The other 2 were Batman and Wonder Woman. They were the only ones continuously published through that whole era. Now, what happened was when the Silver Age started, It most people say that it started with Barry Allen Flash, with Showcase Comics #4, and the appearance of Barry Allen Flash, considered the first hero of the Silver Age, even though you still had Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman being published. Now, the Silver Age Superman that we know of, he comes from back with editor Mort Weisinger. He kind of started the Silver Age for Superman alone. Look, it's not like anyone was sitting there chronicling this stuff at all times, but everything we know about Superman of the Silver Age started with Mort Weisinger being editor of Superman. He's the one that grew it all into that. So, and that was really kind of what was known as the Golden Age guy. Anyway, what I want to do is stop right there with the Silver Age and move into reviewing this book. With this book, like I said, it's more than just John Byrne. You also have Marv Wolfman and Jerry Ordway. You're going to hear both of those names. I'm going to definitely do more videos which will have their names in it. But for some reason, I think they fixed it in later editions. I bought this when it first came out. But for some reason, they put the covers at the back. And when John Byrne came to DC Comics, one of the things he said was he wanted a #1 issue. And DC granted it to him. This was the first #1 issue since 1939, when you had the first Superman #1. So that was really, kind of an amazing thing in there. And John Byrne wrote and drew the Superman book. Then you had what's known as the Adventures of Superman. And what they did was they took the old Superman comic, because they were all canceled with Crisis, which I'm going to get into in later reviews, but they all canceled with Crisis. And when they wanted to give Marv Wolfman his own Superman book with Jerry Ordway, they kept the numbering for the old Superman book, but they changed the title to The Adventures of Superman. And The Adventures of Superman comes from the TV show, The Adventures of Superman. So Marv Wolfman was very happy with that. And look at this gorgeous Jerry Ordway artwork. Like when I said others are involved or included in it, this is what I mean. Jerry Ordway's artwork and Marv Wolfman's writing in the other book. Now, John Byrne actually had 2 Superman books coming out at the month that he was writing and drawing. And the second one was Action Comics. And they don't have the numbering here, but they just continued with the previous numbering on Action Comics. And what John Byrne was doing with Action Comics was that was like the team-up book. So he had a Superman book, which was, regular Superman going through his adventures, Daily Planet, fighting Metallo, all that good stuff. Lex Luthor. And then you had his team-up book where he was teaming up with other members in DC Comics universe. In this case, it's the Teen Titans, who at the time was the #1 book, I believe, when John Byrne started with Action Comics. Then you had Phantom Stranger, the New Gods, the people that John had always wanted to work with. One thing else I wanted to show you in here real quick was Marv Wolfman decided to introduce us to Cat Grant at that point. Anyone who had known about Cat Grant, this is where she was introduced. And she's a good character. I'm glad he actually introduced her, because he was basically saying that we needed somebody to kind of make Lois a little bit jealous and who would actually fall for Clark. And it makes sense, in a nerdy kind of way. I could see, a worldly woman like Cat falling for him. But anyway, that's what I wanted to tell you about this particular book, #2. Now, when I do the reviews, I don't know how far I'm going to get, so I kind of set things up and just keep going from there. I'm going to move into book #3 real quick, because I still have some time. And I wanted to show you this real quick. There's a couple of things I had in there. We're continuing the same thing where you've got John Byrne doing Action Comics, where he's teaming up with another member of the, DC universe. And you have Marv Wolfman and Jerry Ordway doing the other book, The Adventures of Superman. And what I wanted to show you here was like the brilliance of John Byrne, where he's starting a story off, right? This is the beginning of the Action Comics. This is page 1. He's starting a story off, and then when he gets to he goes through the whole story, and he's got like the same scenario. It just, the page ends differently, and I'm not going to show you the last page, but it kind of shows you his storytelling techniques, things that he uses for storytelling. Something else I want to show you real quick about what John Byrne did. I don't recall seeing it too much in Marv Wolfman's book, but what you had is Lois Lane. You know, the relationship between Lois and Clark was always tumultuous, and here she is calling him Kent. She always called him Kent, you know, when John Byrne was writing and drawing the book, and the only time it changed is when she thought he was in trouble. She's going, Clark. She's screaming out his name, Clark, Clark, where are you? And one of the things that John would do is, like, she's looking for, you know, Clark, and then she runs into a baddie, and then the issue ends and the new issue starts, and you see Superman getting beat up, and he kind of wakes up and there's Lois Lane holding his costume, and he's out of the costume, and now how does our hero get out of this? It's stuff like that kind of thrilled me to no end. I marked this off at the end. I'm not sure why. I guess I wanted to show the covers. Not sure why I wanted to show the covers, but anyway, that's it for this. I'm going to go ahead and continue with John Byrne reviews, but these are the 2 books. I'm going to go ahead and post links down below for you to, you know, get them if you want. Hopefully you will, and hopefully you'll enjoy them as much as I did. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share. Go ahead and give me some feedback, some comments down below, because I love to hear from everybody. And I want to thank you very much for checking into my channel. Have a great day. Oh, by the way, share this also if you happen to know anyone who wants to read comics and not sure where to start, or if they are reading comics and just haven't read what I'm showing here. Thank you. Have a great day.